This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by our partners in the field, Federal Premium Ammunition, Benelli Shotguns, and Carlson's Choke Tubes. Together, they provide a 1-2-3 punch that we take with us on every hunt in the field. Today, we're going to do our best to move past all of this COVID-19 talk to take a mental break and discuss do-it-yourself bird hunting options across North America. And I've brought one of my favorite bird hunting buddies, George Lyall, onto the show to lend us his wisdom. And he has plenty of ideas to share. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I believe we are on episode 12, and my name is Travis Frank. I am your host, as always. Thank you for joining us today. Like I said in the introduction, we're going to do our best to move past this COVID-19 talk and just kind of take a mental break. I think we all could use a little bit of a break. Today, George Lyall joins me. George, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Travis.
We would have had this show out probably yesterday, but it took you almost a full 24 hours to get digitally connected here so we can talk.
Well, that's what happens when you take a dog trainer and try and get him on the computer.
Well, I'm glad that you've taken the time today. You and I have spent a lot of time in the field, and, you know, when I go places, everybody wants to talk about George Lyall. You know, so we produce several different TV shows, and I feel like I'm always disappointing people when I show up, because if I'm filming for Minnesota Bound or Due North Outdoors and I show up, they say, I was hoping Laura would come, Laura Shera. So I'm always disappointing people there. And then when I go places in the bird hunting world, they always want to talk about George Lyall, my buddy George. So I thought it's due time that we sit down together and talk about what we enjoy talking about the most, bird hunting, buddy.
Well, you and I have been on a lot of ventures together, and there's nothing I like more than being out in the field with you and our bird dogs, and watching the bird dogs run and the adventures those dogs take us on. Because without the dogs, the adventure is kind of lost with me. So.
Yeah, I hear you. One of the things that I've really appreciated over the last, we've been hunting together for a few years now, but just the fact that we do like this that we're doing right now. We just kind of talk to each other on the phone and say, what should we do next? Where should we go? And you and I pretty much always just do it on our own, which that's how I grew up hunting. You and I, we hunt the same, and that's why it's so much fun, because we will literally just drive into the middle of nowhere and get out of the truck or get out of the boat or whatever vehicle we chose to get us into a place, and we'll just start hunting. And we usually always do it on public land too. So today we're going to break down some do-it-yourself bucket list bird hunting ideas. So when this whole COVID crisis passes, we can do what we love to do, which is get back out into the field. And maybe you can put some of these ideas to use this coming hunting season. George, before we get into that, I got a couple of housekeeping items I want to throw out there to our listeners. We have been producing television, more than 15 years now. And just the last few years, we've been streaming our episodes on YouTube. We have a Flush YouTube channel. And so we thought, we've got archives. We've got classic episodes that are not online right now. And so I've got a couple of editors actually right now they're basically pulling out all of these classic shows out of the archives. We're going to start streaming some of those old shows just to give people some more content right now. We'll probably be doing one a week, and that'll lead us up into our new season of episodes that'll be airing on the Outdoor Channel. So if you are looking for some more bird hunting content, follow or subscribe to our YouTube channel, Flush YouTube channel. And you are going to be getting more content starting this week. Secondly, George, you know this. You live in Minnesota, so you know that we produce other television shows as well. Minnesota Bound and Due North Outdoors are a couple of them that I work on and produce, just like I do with The Flush. And like a lot of people right now, I have been basically trying to figure out what can I do to help right now. I mean, we're obviously in this together, this whole world right now. And so a couple weeks ago, I thought, well, we can raise money for our healthcare workers. And so Minnesota's fishing opener is Saturday, May 9th, coming up. And so we will be announcing this on a lot of our other television shows, but I thought I'd throw it out there too. And you don't know this yet, George, but we are going to be doing a digital fishing contest. There's an app out there that allows us to do this. So people can go, if you're going fishing on the fishing opener this year, you can fish with a purpose now because we are doing it. The event is called Fishing for Our Front Lines, and we are going to be raising money for our healthcare workers. This is going to help them with PPE items, things that they need right now to help protect us. And so basically, we've partnered with the U of M. They have emergency caregivers fund that's been set up. And so we've got that fund connected to the app. It's called the Fish Donkey app. And basically you go on your phone, you download the app, you join our event. It's a $20 donation. And we have several $1,000s in prizes. We've got some really generous partners that have joined us in hoping to raise money for our healthcare workers. But it's going to be on Saturday, May 9th. We are going to be launching it this week on a lot of our other Minnesota Bound, Due North Outdoors. You'll probably be seeing it in several places, but we hope you'll join us. If you plan on fishing in Minnesota, and I know that the Flush, we're a national show, but this is Minnesota based because that's where we're based out of, and we have a chance to do something here, and we hope that you'll join us. So if you're going fishing, George, maybe even you can jump in on the fishing opener and help us raise some money for those that are working so hard right now on the front lines to protect us. So again, Fish Donkey app on your phone. You can socially distance yourself and fish and be a part of this event. And we have some really tremendous prizes that we're going to be giving away, and we're raising a lot of money, hopefully. So anyway, those are the housekeeping items, George. Any thoughts on that?
Sounds like I better get on and join in the efforts.
Well, we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. I don't know. I have friends, I have family that right now they're going to work, and a lot of us are being told don't go to work, and a lot of us are saying, keep your distance, and yet they don't have the choice. They're there fighting, they're working hard, and oh man, I'm just like, my heart's going out to them, and I just want to help. And so I feel like this is a way to do it. We've connected enough dots to make this happen. And we're basically, how it's going to work is like you take a photo of the fish laying on your tape measure, your measuring device, and the longest walleye, longest northern pike, longest largemouth bass, longest smallmouth bass, they're all going to win. We've got like these fishing gear packs, great value to them, and then the grand prize, I'm going to pick a secret length of a fish, and the first person to catch a fish that lands on the secret length that nobody's going to know about but me, and maybe I'll have to disclose it to somebody else for legal rights. But anyway, once somebody lands on that, it's like a $3,000 fishing trip giveaway for 4 buddies up to Lake of the Woods, plus gift cards to Fleet Farm, and gear pack from Rapala, rod and reel combos, things like that we're giving away. So anyway, sorry, I've taken a lot of time. George, let's get into, let's talk bird hunting, buddy. You cool with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, George, who introduced you to bird hunting right off the bat? Let's go back a few years.
Well, that is a few years back. That's a long time ago, because I've been bird hunting probably since I've been about 4 or 5 years old in northern Minnesota. So that would be my dad and my and my grandparents.
What'd you guys
Yep.
hunt?
Uh, my first upland bird hunt was rough grouse.
Let me guess, the bird got away.
Well, possibly.
Yeah,
We're keeping track of all our misses. That's a
yeah,
long, long story.
yeah.
But
Do you
yeah,
remember it though?
I remember my first rough grouse flush like it was yesterday.
Really? Tell me
Um,
about it.
and yeah, when you're 7 years old and the bird flies, you're bound to miss. And I did miss my first grouse flush. But my dad was there, and I could take you to the exact spot in the woods. And I'm sure the trees have changed, but because, like I said, it was a long time ago. But I
Hmm.
definitely could take you to the exact spot where my dad took me, and the first on the wing shot at a rough grouse. Um, all my grouse were shot on the wing, by the way. But even as a young kid, I never we never shot them out of trees. So,
You sure are
um,
sporting
so
a sporting fella there, Georgie.
yeah,
I
as you
remember
know,
my
as you know, in our ventures in Canada, some of those birds tend to just stare at you. So,
hmm Right? They do.
yeah.
I remember my first rough grouse flush. I was actually following my dad to his deer stand. I wasn't old enough to deer hunt at the time, but I just wanted to hunt. My gosh, that's all I wanted to do. So I went with him to the deer stand, and we're walking through the woods in the dark, and we scared a rough grouse. And oh my gosh, like it like knocked me backwards. I didn't quite step on it, but it was close, and that explosion was just in the dark. You know how loud they are in the light from a distance, but only a couple of feet in front of me. I just like, what the heck was that? It just you can't forget that. You just can't.
No,
Um,
they're.
if,
Oops, sorry. Go ahead, Trev.
I was gonna say if you could only hunt one bird, would it be the rough grouse?
Absolutely. It's the king of the upland game birds, and there's no doubt about it. And I'd argue till the sun went down and came back up again with anybody that's a bird hunter. They're a very humbling bird. You go in with a brace of dogs, and they're on point, and one's backing the other, and you are in total anticipation of that flush. And you know the bird's coming right off that dog's nose, and you know it's going to happen. And somehow, some way, they still twist you in a knot a lot of times. So
Right.
when you hold a rough grouse in your hand after successful bird dog work, and as you know, it's just it's really cool.
It is. It is. I mean, there's two ways that people hunt for rough grouse, in my opinion. One is with a dog and you take them on the wing. The second is you either drive a trail with your four wheeler or walk a trail and you're not bringing a dog, and if you have a shot at them on the ground or in a tree, you take them that way. And it seems to me that a lot of times when you see photos of people that have a pile of grouse laying in front of them, like they shoot their limit, most likely they're doing it the second way. It's a very challenging hunt to take them on the wing, pointing, with a pointing dog. Um, and my gosh, as I've learned now trying to do it with a television camera in the woods or multiple cameras, getting capturing that on camera is one of the most challenging things I've ever been a part of in outdoor television.
Yeah,
Um,
I've been there. I've been there side by side with you. I mean, I've been in the grouse woods since, like I said, I've been 4 or 5 years old. Not carrying a gun when I was 4 or 5,
mhm.
uh, but by the time I was 7, but I've been in the grouse woods the majority of my life. And whether you have a dog or not, and you're walking, flushing them up, or a flushing dog or a punting dog, whichever.
Mhm.
It is a very humbling bird, and now you add the camera guys there with us, which we've done many times together,
Mhm.
to get the bird on film and get the whole scene, you know, I would say set, but you can't set it up. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Right,
Uh,
right.
these are wild birds, and they do what they will do, and that is survive most of the time.
Well, and I think there's a reason why there's two bird hunting shows that you don't see a lot of, and one is ruffed grouse and the other is chucker. And it's just because of the challenges that come with trying to actually make the camera see what the hunter sees. It's so tough to be in the right position because it's almost always so thick. They very rarely flush in a place where there's an opening. Rough grouse anyway, and then chucker. Obviously, it's just lugging a camera 6,000 feet up a mountain and up and down, up and down. But we still do our best to try. And George, we've done Ontario. We've hunted together. We've hunted in Oklahoma together for bobwhite quail. We've hunted in Wyoming for chucker, sage grouse, Hungarian partridge, and I'm already looking forward to our next journey. But I have to imagine there's other hunters listening right now that are looking forward to the same. So why don't we break down a few of our hunts together? Let's start with our grouse hunt in Ontario. We hunted on public land. George, how long ago was that when we went up there? Was that 5 years ago?
I believe it was
We're
4 or 5 years ago. Yep.
4 or 5 years ago. Okay, so basically, so when you get up into Ontario, we went out on Lake of the Woods and we stayed at, it's called the French Portage Outpost Camp. And basically, it's just this little cabin sitting on an island. Um, and it's about a 45-minute boat ride, maybe 50-minute boat ride in. And it's pretty rustic. Did they have running water there?
Yeah, we had running water and hot water, which was a
Okay.
dream.
Yeah, we didn't have our bathroom was a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And then there was an outhouse. But yeah, that's right. We did have running water. And they did have a satellite dish on top, so we did have television. In the fall, we were able to watch the Vikings game. I do remember that. Um, but anyway, so we're on an island, and now when you get up on Lake of the Woods, most of the islands are called Crown Land. So this is basically America's version of public land. And so our idea going into it, George and I, we studied quite a few maps, but we really went into it blind, thinking, well, we're going to look for islands that have burnt recently, because you get up into that remote country, forest fires still happen up there regularly, and so we were looking for that kind of cover. But really, the idea was, okay, we're bringing the dogs. I've got a boat. George, you brought Tucker and Boone. You didn't have Minnie back then, right?
No.
And so we're like, let's just go see what we can see. We found that basically, so we ended up making two episodes out of this adventure, and you can watch them. They're on our YouTube channel. You can stream them, but basically, we made two full episodes out of it because we found that there was so much untouched game to be had up there. Once we got into this wilderness, did we see anybody else? I don't remember. Did we even see any other boats? We might have seen a boat or two drive by, but they were fishing. We never saw any other hunters, right?
Correct.
We hunted a lot. We spent a lot of time just on the island that our cabin was on because there were so many birds there. But essentially, we could have just pulled up and hunted anywhere, right?
Yeah, like you said, we were looking for these islands range in, I don't know, Travis, 15 acres to what, 80 acres, hundreds of
Yeah, and
acres.
hundreds of acres. They're all
So
different. Yeah.
yeah, so just it's rough grouse hunting. You got to find the habitat. They got to be in the right habitat, or you're not going to find them at all. So that's what that's what you and I were doing, is finding what island had the habitat that we thought would have grouse on it. So, and those
What do you?
forest fires on those islands provide, it's Mother Nature's way of a clear cut.
Right.
So they bring that early successional forest in, and these islands aren't spread out that far. I mean, the water's only a couple hundred yards across, so these birds are going to move from island to island as the habitat, dictates the food source that they need.
hmm There's one thing that really, really stood out to me on that hunt, but I'm going to ask you, what stood out the most to you?
Um, as far as the rough grouse side of things,
hmm hmm
was earlier in this you talked about two ways to hunt rough grouse. One is to walk a trail, and the other is to get off the beaten path. On the Crown lands, there are no trails. Out where and when you're in the middle of the lake, there are no paths. So thick cover. Uh, you know, Besides having your normal hunting equipment, well, every part of my normal hunting equipment is a compass. So you better have a compass and know what direction you're going and how to find your way back to the boat. So no trails.
hmm Yep. Can I tell you what stood out to me the most?
Yeah.
Just how stupid those birds were. They were
Oh,
so dumb. When Boone went on point the first time, that grouse looked at that dog like, the hell are you doing here? It had no idea what a dog was. It had never seen a dog before, I'm positive. It had no idea that it should be afraid of that dog. It didn't know what to do about that dog. And Boone was, I remember very specifically looking at Boone, just rock solid point, and he is staring at this grouse that is not 10 feet from him, wide open, standing on a log, looking right at him. And then the grouse just kind of does this little like, I'm going to go ahead and start walking this way, and just starts walking away from the dog. He didn't want to flush. We chased it probably 70 yards, George, maybe more, before we
oh,
got that bird to get off, off the ground.
it was it was darn near comical. That is for sure. That uh, again, you remember those things like they were yesterday, and I'm sure you and I could almost take the same path that the bird really took us on the path.
Yep,
But Boone led us down that path because the bird, remember how the bird was right in front of us, then we couldn't find him, and
yep.
it was so thick. You're like, where did the bird go, and why is he not flushing? And I would release Boone, and Boone would go about 30 yards or not even and lock back up on point. We make our way there, and we could see him again. That bird taunted us for quite a while. And, you mentioned trying to get a flush on camera in the grouse woods. And if my memory serves me correct, if folks go back and watch the YouTube
hmm
show on that, they'll see the flush. Well, one, they'll see the dog work, they'll see the flush and
hmm
bird in hand. And you know, cameraman got it all on film, which I was extremely impressed because just carrying the camera through that brush would have been hard enough, let alone get it on film.
Right, right. I give all the credit to our cameramen for being there, lugging those cameras around. I mean, they're roughly a 30-pound camera, on their shoulder through all that cover. It's hard enough to just try to get through it on your own carrying a shotgun, but the stuff that they carry through, all the batteries and everything, and then man, somehow they get it. I think they take as much pride in getting it on camera as we do trying to take that bird out of the air with our shotguns. But yeah, there were a lot of birds on those islands. I think, if we would have ventured to every island, we probably would have found birds on every single one of them, don't you think?
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the opportunities, well, that was about 4 or 5. What do we say? 4 or 5 years ago, we'd still be
Mhm.
there, Travis. That's how
Right.
many islands are there. You know, the birds up there, like you said, I guarantee you those birds live their life never seeing a dog.
Yep.
Um, not seeing a hunter, anything.
Yeah. Yeah, they would jump up in trees and stare at us like, "What are you guys doing here?" And they just didn't have fear in them. They just didn't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
So, if there's, when people say like, "Hey, where would you go if you were going to go on a grouse hunt?" I tell them it's a little bit of an adventure, but if you have a boat and you're willing to rough it, it's so cool. So, Lake of the Woods that time of the year. Um, One morning, I think I threw 2 dozen duck decoys in the boat as well. And so one morning on the backside of our island, um, Costi Island is the one that we stayed on. That's the one where French Portage is. But on the backside of that island is a giant bay full of rice. And so we're like, well, we'll see what happens. We'll throw some decoys out. And you brought your over under out there, and I brought some steel shot duck loads, and Scott and his buddy Brad, they joined us. So there was 4 of us, Scott Franzen and Brad Hamilton. And so we shot our limit of ducks is like way faster than any of us thought we would ever take our limit of ducks. Geese came in, and we're just like, this land is just so fruitful, and there's nobody else out here. Um, any comments from your end on that duck hunt?
Um, so when you throw duck hunting in there, all I can say is the whole trip was, I hate to use the word, but I'm going to use the word epic.
Yeah.
Um, like you said, we put a lot of, we brought a lot of equipment on that hunt to try, well, duck hunting, rough grouse hunting. We had our fishing rods, but when we got on the backside of that island and you guys put the decoys out and we got hunkered down, the amount of ducks that came into us, um, it was just fantastic. And the scene, the scenery, and the position we were in that little bay, I'll never forget it. I'll
Hmm.
never forget it. And just the ducks working. Travis, that day we got up in the morning, we went out there in the dark, set the decoys out, shot ducks, shot geese. Scott's Labradors did awesome.
Hmm.
I think it was Izzy, rest in peace. She
Yep.
did awesome. Then we went and caught walleyes off the dock and out of the
Yep.
boat, and then we went grouse hunting. So that day, that duck hunt was awesome.
It was. I remember we're in our camouflage. We got back to the cabin, and we said, "Let's go see if we can catch a fish off the dock, just for poops and giggles." And we had 2 cameramen with, and they're like, "Oh, we'll go film it." And our plan was to go out in a boat or go out in our boats and walleye fish, so we could have like the surf version of or surf portion of our surf and turf. But we got to the dock, and I remember you, me, Brad, we all casted our line out, and Scott was still tying his jig, and we had a competition. Last person to catch a fish has to clean the fish or the birds or whatever it was. But we all set the hook on a walleye on our first cast. We're like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. We caught smallmouth bass, northern pike, walleye, perch. What else? I think we caught something else too off the dock. But there were so many fish that we never actually untied the boat, and we caught our meal of walleyes too. So I've told that story to some of my other hunting buddies. I'm like, guys, if you ever want to do like the ultimate fall fishing hunting adventure, my goodness, I don't know if you can beat what we experienced up there. I really don't. I mean, the variety, the amount of birds. We went maybe 150 yards behind the cabin before we had our first point on a grouse. Was it any further than that? It couldn't have been, George.
No, it wasn't any farther than that. And they were
Yeah,
everywhere. They were everywhere back there.
they were. They were. The only thing that hampered us was on that particular shoot, we had rain and wind, and we lost one camera from the moisture from the rain. We broke a camera. Scott, the owner of our company, he wasn't happy about that, so he had to postpone some of the filming and the conditions. I would have normally pushed on probably, but we obviously want to be, aware of the expensive equipment we're taking into those conditions. But high on the list, we stayed in, like I said, we stayed at the French Outpost Camp, which is part of Totem Resorts. It sleeps in that particular camp. I want to say you could sleep a dozen people, probably.
It was
Maybe.
it was a lot. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Yep.
I mean, not that I want to go with a dozen people grouse hunting, but if you had, there's four of us. We had two boats. I mean, if you showed up with six guys, if you hunted in pairs, which I highly recommend up there, I wouldn't go up in that territory alone. There are no roads, so.
Right. Right.
But yeah, you could have a group of guys and or gals and go out and island hop and fish and hunt and everything.
Yeah, I recommend don't go up there without bringing a dozen or two duck decoys because those birds are thick. All you need to find is some rice. It didn't take a lot of work. Basically, none of us had ever gone up there, so we didn't have a guide. We did it all by just using our mountain men senses. But basically, you drive around for a little bit, you find rice sticking out of the water, you see the ducks, you say, let's set up there in the morning and see what happens. Very simple. There's not a lot of pressure. I've talked to some of the locals since then, and they say, oh man, our duck hunting up here is one of the best kept secrets that this region has. We were up there late September. The duck season, waterfowl season opens up in Ontario, I want to say early September, so you can extend your hunting season by going up there earlier in the year. There's just so many options, really. And now we didn't look into pitching a tent because we found this cabin. I think there's probably other cabins, outpost camps you might be able to rent if you want to pursue something like this. But if you wanted to really save some money and bring a tent, again, it's Crown land. That's Canada's version of public land. You'd have to do a little bit of research on making sure you can camp. But man, if you really wanted to rough it, go Boundary Waters style and camp. I really think that's an option. George, out of 1 through 10 for your bucket list, do-it-yourself bird hunts, where would you rank the Ontario adventure?
I knew you were going to ask this, but we've been on so many adventures together and lots of hunting and fishing trips. But oh boy, I'll just put it on a 1 to 10. It's a 9 or 10, Travis.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Okay, let's shift gears. Well, let's head south. Let's head south. So you turned me on to this one, I want to say 4 years ago. It was a public land quail hunt. And what sparked your interest in going to Oklahoma in the first place?
Well, the bird itself, quail, is something that I've hunted. I would say when I was a lot younger, more on, you come across them on accident in Iowa. I've done a fair amount of upland bird hunting in the state of Iowa. I've been in a lot of states, but Nebraska, hunting other game birds, and then you come across the mighty little bobwhite quail. They kind of remind me of smallmouth bass, how they the tenacity they have for life. So when they flush, they're little bombs coming out of that cover. I equate that to the smallmouth bass because of how hard they fight. But anyway, I wanted to go where quail were plentiful and the dogs could just get out and move and search and locate lots of coveys of quail. And so I put a pin on the great state of Oklahoma and the opportunities they have for public hunting. And I got in the truck and I just headed southwest until I found the right cover, and literally that's what I did. I did more research than that. I made some phone calls. I talked to game bird biologists, fish and parks down there, and pulled up the maps of larger public areas and made some phone calls to some hotels so I knew I had a place to stay. And I just, like I said, I pointed the nose of the truck southwest, and 14, 16 hours later, there I was.
So, who did you call? I mean, you just did a little, research on quail, or like for somebody who's never done it, what's your steps that you take?
Well, one step I take is, every year, Quail Forever, Pheasants Forever puts out the Upland Bird Hunting Super Issue. There's a lot of good articles in there. I found some articles in there that talked about Oklahoma. I reached out to some folks at Quail Forever to talk to them about quail hunting in Oklahoma, and they gave me some insights and some direction. And best of all, I called the game fish and parks in Oklahoma and found the bird biologist for the western region of Oklahoma and had a conversation with him. And then from there, I talked to some folks that were directly manage these public areas in Oklahoma, and I've done it in Kansas. The resources are there. These are the folks that have feet on the ground that are in the field year round. They'll give you some great insight to the point where I've had folks tell me, George, this year you might want to look at a different state. They've gone to that extreme. They still want your hunting and fishing dollars. The small town restaurant and hotel operators want you to come stay there. But all these folks are going to be extremely honest with you and say whether or not they've had a drought that year or whatever the weather conditions and bird populations are, they're going to steer you in the right direction. So, if you're making a 12-hour to 15-hour trip, look at multiple states and some of these states are huge. I mean, the difference between eastern Kansas and western Kansas is night and day. The difference between same thing, eastern Oklahoma, western Oklahoma, Texas, wherever you might be going, South Dakota, whatever, reach out to these folks and figure out what has happened and do it throughout starting now. You can start making phone calls to see what was their winter like. And then they might have had a lot of snow, so it's starting to green up, and during the hatch, they have a great spring. And all of a sudden, especially in states like Oklahoma, you hit the middle of summer, and they get blasted with 120-degree temps all day, and everything bakes off. And if they haven't had the moisture, then those quail are they're just not going to survive. So you gotta find where in the state they've had the right habitat come up, and these folks will tell you.
Do you ever find that somebody might be withholding information, or are you getting pretty good, honest info from them?
I feel like I'm getting very honest information from them. Now, if you call me, I might lead you. No, I'm kidding. That's the difference. When you call a game bird biologist, they're going to give you 100% accurate information as best as they know. Again, they're working in their areas and their districts, and they're going to give you the honest, straight truth. If you call someone's cousin's sister, she might have the greatest quail hunting in Oklahoma, but she's got bird dogs and she wants to keep those cubbies for herself, so she might lead you in a different direction.
Right,
so
right.
I just would say have multiple resources.
Right. That's my advice too, is always make multiple phone calls. When I'm in this position of, setting up hunts, that we're going to film television shows for. People always want to tell me about their greatest hunts they've ever had and how good it can be, but the reality is they might have 10 terrible ones to have that one good one, and I have to be able to decipher what is most likely going to happen while I am there, because we have wild birds, we have weather factors, and so many variables that need to go into play in a short amount of time, and I have to leave with the television show. So I am always checking multiple sources in an area, and a lot of times I hear the same thing from other people. Then obviously I know, yep, I that's a very reliable source, and this person says the same thing too. But yeah, people as a general rule, like you said, your cousin's sister's brother's buddy, he might want that for himself, but the people that are managing the land, that to, want to grow the sport and make it special for everybody, they're gonna give you the right information. They may not say, here is exactly the hillside that a covey lives on, but they're gonna say, they're out there. They're out there, and you can find them too. Yeah, we went. When did we go down there, George? Was it the first week of January?
It was the first. It was the first week of January, and will you ever forget leaving my farm here in Minnesota?
It was a whiteout blizzard. No, how could I?
It was about with the wind chill, I'm sure it was about 40 some below zero, and we could barely see the hood of the truck when we pulled out of the farm here in southwest Minnesota. And I think we had your cameraman in the back seat, and he's like, "Fellas, should we really be leaving?" I said, "Trust me, we're going." And we fought the snow. I don't know, through pretty far down there.
Yeah.
But we got out of it, and once we hit Oklahoma, once we got down through Kansas and then Oklahoma, we had great weather. And Travis, you reminded me of something about, folks say, "Oh, you got to come down here and hunt. I got some great spots to take you, and the birds are plentiful." And sometimes you get there and it just doesn't pan out. And I will tell you that when we left in January, some friends of mine were down there in December, literally, I think a week and a half before we left here. And they came back and said, "Oh, I don't know if I would go." And I'm like, "Really? Well, we're going," because we'd done our research and we knew the birds were there. Yep. And they just didn't really have the greatest luck. You could count a lot of factors in there, and I'll probably touch on one about public hunting. Mm-hmm. But you and I had an outstanding trip, and folks go on there and watch the flush show in Oklahoma. I mean, that one. What did we hunt? 3 days?
Yes, we did. We hunted with Jonathan, a guy that you met because you basically sewed up his dog in the field, right? The year before?
Yep, correct. A couple years before that, but yeah.
Okay. Jonathan, what was his last name again?
Jonathan Pfeiffer.
Jonathan Pfeiffer. That's right. So how did you meet him again?
What a great guy. Yeah. So it was 2 years, I believe, before you and I went down there to film, or a year before we went down there to film the flush. And I was hunting with a buddy of mine, and his dog got tore up by a barbed wire fence. And so I had him in the hotel room. The weather was nice. Hotel room door was open. There's a motel, so we're all on ground level. The door was open, and I had the dog up on a table, and I was stitching the dog back together and cleaning my buddy's dog up, and Jonathan walks by with a couple of his buddies, and they stop in the doorway, and they're like, they just started talking to us, and they see me stitching this dog back together, and Jonathan's like, "Gosh, my dog has the same problem. Would you take a look at my dog?" So I'm like, "Sure, bring him in," and I was able to stitch his dog back together, and from there, in a hotel room in western Oklahoma, we formed a friendship that's geez, 5, 6, at least 6 or 7 years old now. We talk probably once a month, and it's just funny how you meet people and you become friends. And
Hmm.
our friendship was formed over a dog that was in a little bit of rough shape, and but we got him back in the field, so that was pretty awesome. And from that, you talk about how do you find places? Well, a lot of it's word of mouth, right? And
Hmm.
building those friendships when you're on the road. You might meet someone in a restaurant. You might see some other hunters, especially in public hunting grounds. You pull up, you have this whole place all set up to go hunt. You pull in there, and there's already a rig there, and maybe
Hmm.
they're getting their dogs ready, and you stop and talk to them, and maybe you form a friendship over that as you hopefully on public ground you move on to the next spot and let those fellas and gals hunt that spot and not trample over each other. But Jonathan and I have a great friendship now.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the upland bird hunting is such a social sport too, and it certainly is better when people are, you know, talking to each other about game plans, especially, you and I hunt a lot of public lands. Our friendship really started, we met at Pheasant Fest many years ago, and we ended up having dinner. And I think just like the stories you were telling me and then I would tell you my stories, like we just both live for the exact same thing. It's like let's go find our next adventure and doing it on our own. I mean, that's what I thrive off of, and obviously you do the same too, which is what makes it so much fun to just like find these places, talk about them, plan, and make it happen. I mean, and I remember you saying, I got this buddy of mine down there, and he said, "Hey, why don't you stay at our camp or deer camp or cabin or what? I don't know." It was in the middle of the open prairie down there in Oklahoma, and so yeah, we drove down in January, left the blizzard in Minnesota. We got down there at like midnight, probably.
Yeah, it's a long ride down there, and in the cover of darkness, we pulled into north central Oklahoma to his cabin, which middle of nowhere, right, Travis?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Lots of wide open spaces. But
Yeah.
I think the neat thing about that trip is we hit some spots. We went to some different areas that certainly neither one of us had been to. You've never been to Oklahoma, I think, before that.
Correct.
And to like you said, we're both like-minded people, and to study the habitat, the terrain. I equate when you pull into wide open spaces. To me, it's like when you pull your boat onto the lake and you have all the fishing electronics, and you got the lake maps on there, and you just
Mm-hmm.
don't pull out in the middle of the lake and cast your line out there. You have to study what's presented to you, and I think you and I complement each other both very well in the upland fields, and looking at the terrain and the habitat and going, I don't think there's birds over there, but look at that spot. I bet you there's birds there. And how many times have we done that together? And the dogs go with us, but they're out there hunting, and lo and behold, there they are. I want to say that one of those days in Oklahoma, we had over 22 to 24 coveys found
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
public ground, and which, if anyone knows quail hunting, that's an epic day on public hunting ground.
Yeah, it was. I do remember Jonathan invited us to hunt some of his deer hunting properties. Like, oh yeah, we got quail too, but which we did find some. But the thing that really stood out to me was we had 5 times more success on the public ground than we did on the private ground, which is usually the other way around. But again, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like I grew up hunting and fishing for everything that I could hunt and fish for, and to me I just like I am a creature of detail. Like I am watching everything that's happening. Nothing in the wild world seems to happen by chance, whether it's upland birds, big game. There's a reason they are where they are. And so I am always paying attention. I am always watching. And I feel like the first morning I get to a place, especially, since we do a lot of these adventures where we've never been, the first half a day, I'm really just like, I'm watching what the dogs do. I'm watching where they go. I'm looking at the habitat. If something explodes from a certain kind of cover, I'm making a note of it. Where is there other pieces that look like it? Where do people most likely hunt when they come here? How do we get it further away? How do we get somewhere where the birds might have been pushed into, might congregate? Water sources, food sources, nest, a roosting cover, things like that. That's what is constantly going through my mind, as well as keeping in touch with our cameraman and understanding, what he needs to do to capture it. But for people that are going on these adventures, it's a lot of hunters reach out to me, George, and I'm sure you get it too, and they say, what should I look for there? Or where should I go? Or what area? And I always tell them, like, you know what? Until you get out there, you're not really going to know. You have to see it for yourself. You have to be willing to put in extra miles and go a little further. In Oklahoma, I'm pretty sure we kept track, but it was something like close to 10 miles you and I put on each day, maybe more. Was it 12 one day?
For sure. 10 was minimum.
Hmm.
I would say you and I walking 10 to 15 miles per day. Some of those, remember, I think it was the last day when we did have the 24 cubby points. I'm pretty sure we left the truck and we never came back. Either that was the day before that when the one day where I had to pick up, Tucker, I had to pick Tucker up and walk him a half mile out because he'd already put on, I forget what he put on that day, but 38,
Yeah,
38 or
it
40 miles, I
was.
want to say he did if we did 10 to
Oh,
15 miles. The GPS tracks his every movement. And yeah, we got out there.
right. That definitely, I remember that very well because the dog went on point and we got up there and there was no birds, and it was just because he was done. He literally said enough. But we were trying to get him to go back to the truck, and the problem was he kept running into coveys and he kept going on point and taking us 2, 3, 400 yards out of the way. And as we were trying to go to the truck to end the hunt, he probably locked on like 8 more coveys, 7 more coveys, something like that. So we were trying to end the hunt and he just kept finding birds, and eventually those plum thickets, they took a toll. If somebody is gonna go do that kind of a hunt, it's different terrain. It's a lot different terrain. Western Oklahoma is very sandy soil, so walking is actually kind of it's not firm if I know in that hill country, and those plum thickets are nasty. Are nasty. What kind of items did you bring on that trip for your dogs?
Well, you always travel with a full medical kit.
Hmm.
But on that type of ground, you're bringing products that can mend their feet, mend their paws, some type of tough foot. I would highly recommend. There's cactus down there. I don't. We might have booted the dogs one time, but I'd bring dog boots. You're going to run into cactus in some parts of Kansas and Nebraska, and certainly in Oklahoma. So dog boots and some way to take care of their feet. Some type of ointment, some type of spray to every night to or every time you pick the dog back up and put them back on the rig, you're going to want to check them over and make sure there aren't any stickers in their paws and
Yeah.
spray their feet down and take care of them. But yeah, that hunt, I should caution everybody. I don't want anyone to think that I had to run my dogs down to that point. We tried to turn Tucker, I don't know how many times, and that dog has a big heart. And
Yeah.
he's like, "You guys, there's just so many birds out here. I can't turn." And even when I did, remember when I picked him up, we were heading back to the truck. We, like you said, we tried multiple times to get back to get Boone off the rig, and he just kept finding more birds. And when I did pick him up and physically carried him, and you had to carry my gun, I put him over my shoulders and carried him.
Yep.
We set him back down on the ground. That dog looked at me and was, well, there's more birds here. And I think on the way back to the truck, just on the road, he found 4 more cubbies.
Oh,
I'm
it was
like,
unbelievable. It was
I think I put him on a lead and said, you can't do this anymore, buddy. There's another day. We can hunt. We can hunt this afternoon. We can hunt tomorrow. We got to get Boone off the
Mhm.
truck and whatnot. And that when you're hunting big open area like that, that's the other thing. Multiple dog. It's a multiple dog scenario. I'm not just going
Mhm.
to discourage someone that only has one dog to go on these adventures. Just be aware of your dog's um, athleticism, how much time you put in before you took the dog on this trip. My
Mhm.
dogs get work. My dogs get worked every day, and people say every day. Come on, George. Every day my dogs get worked, some form or fashion. And I have a dog training facility here at my farm that I train my dogs at, so it happens every day. They have space and the ability to get out and run. So condition your dog before you go on one of these adventures so you're ready. So when you're in day 2.5, you look over your dog and the dog's in the dog box going, I can't do it anymore. I mean, that's how,
Right.
right? I think day 3, you and I were like, if we had a 4th day here, it would have been rough on us.
I was worried that I would be carrying you over my shoulders on the way out of there, buddy. Well, and on
Yeah.
top of the conditioning for your dog, you really got to work on conditioning for yourself too. It's pretty strenuous up and down, and I really the last couple of years I've been putting in some time in the gym, working out, and I'm still young, but I can tell that I need to stay in shape to go on some of these adventures. So it's certainly um, it makes a lot of sense if you're going to put in the time, the resources to go on these adventures, and they don't have to be expensive adventures. You don't have to purchase, go through an outfitter to do this. It's not thousands and thousands of dollars. You can do these kind of hunts relatively cheap, but you really want to invest in, maybe you get out walking, maybe you do a little bit of running, you work out a little bit for a few months leading into the hunting season, so you're ready to go. And you're going to really enjoy the hunt a lot more. You're going to be able to push yourself into going into some of these places that a lot of other hunters don't go. The locals, they most likely are going to just take the easy route, is what I've learned over the last 20 years of hunting. The locals seem to know the easy ones, but the hard to reach places are worth the time to get to. George, there's so many more places that we got to go. Man, I could talk for hours with you about this. So we got to come back. Let's do another part 2 of this show, okay? But we'll talk Wyoming sage grouse. We'll talk chucker hunting. We'll talk prairie chickens in the Dakotas. There's so much more that you and I have to dig into. We're running late, or we're taking up a lot of time, and I'm babbling now. I don't want to do that. But one thing for people right now, what are you doing with your dogs right now? This spring season that we're in, a lot of people are at home. What can they do?
Well, one thing that you can do with your dog and do it every day is keep discipline up every time, whether the dog's in the house with you or the dog is in a kennel. And however you take care of your dog, when you open the door to let the dog out, make sure the dog waits for you. Don't 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 lose the disciplinary act. The discipline that you have on your dog, the manners that you require from your dog translates to how that dog handles in the field. If you're sloppy at home, the dog's going to be sloppy in the dog training field. The dog's going to be sloppy when you get out to actually go hunting. So every day I'm in my routine. Every time I let the dogs out of the kennel, I open the kennel door, they got to wait. All these little things add up. So in the off season, try not to let your guard down, even as simple as letting your dog out. When you get your dog outside, go for a walk with the dog. You talked about being in shape for your hunt. It's been a long winter. There's no time like the present for all of us to be in shape and get your dog in shape and take that dog for lots of walks. running. I mean, I have an exercise regiment here at my place with a roading unit. We get out on the gravel roads out here in southwest Minnesota, and the dogs, we talked about their feet in Oklahoma. That running gravel roads and getting out in cover instead of just walking in the green grass helps toughen those feet up. So I would say right now, just work on the discipline of your dog and get out for walks with your dog so the dog stays in shape and you stay in shape. There's nothing worse than getting behind the curve and the dog builds up extra weight before the season starts. And once September shows up, that hunting season, well, once September shows up, hunting season is really here because some of these seasons start earlier, like in Canada. We're already there second week of September, something like that. We're past the April deadline of being out on public hunting grounds, so do not go out in the state of Minnesota anyway right now on public grounds. You're not allowed out there for simple reasons is the birds are trying to build their nests and produce their young, so you're not allowed to be out there. So find other parks. If you're in the city, get to a park and run your dog and just work on different things.
Georgie, will you come back for part 2 of our public land talk?
Yeah, absolutely. I could, awesome. Like you said, Travis, I could go on and on and on. And you and I have been on adventures. We could sit here for hours. So I appreciate you inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to say a couple weeks ago, I disclosed your recipe, your world famous recipe on the podcast that I had with Walton's. And I've heard from some of our listeners that have tried it. They have said it is the best wild upland bird recipe that they have ever tried. Walton's is even going to put it to one of their tests down there. If you haven't listened to that show, it's the Walton's show, and I highly recommend it. I give out George's recipe. I have used that for every single wild bird that I have shot since you gave that to me about 5-6 years ago. And from ducks to geese to grouse to pheasants to quail, it is the best. So Georgie, I appreciate you sharing that. You are changing lives every single day, my friend.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I just made that recipe a week ago for some friends.
Really? What are you calling it?
I just call it my pheasant roll-up. That's all I mean, I didn't know any other way to explain it, but I had friends that hadn't had pheasant like ever or in years, and 2 weeks ago I made it. And one of my buddy's wives was like, I would have never guessed this was pheasant, and if you would have told me it was pheasant, I probably wouldn't have eaten it. This is the greatest thing I've ever had. So I went, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've made it for people before too, as like an hors d'oeuvre that don't eat wild game, when they've been over for one of my kids' birthday parties or things like that. And I just set it out there and they take a bite and they're just like, oh, this is incredible. And then I tell them afterwards, I'm like, yeah, it's a sharp-tailed grouse. Or I'm like, yeah, that was a pheasant. And they're just like, they're kind of dumbfounded, or I say, yeah, that was a goose. And they go, no, there's no way. Like it's so good. So it's the pheasant roll up, but again, it's on the Walton's podcast. George, I think we need to maybe, we're going to have to do that recipe in an episode coming up. We will go into detail on it. I also, when we get back, I've got some ideas on our next adventure. So you're going to have to stick around. It's not going to be next week. Next week, I have somebody coming on the show from Federal to find out what's happening right now during the COVID crisis. Are they building ammunition? Are you going to have shotgun shells this season? Some of those important questions that are going to affect every single one of us. So that will be next week. George, thank you so much, buddy. We'll talk again very soon.
Sounds great, Travis. Take care. Thank you.
You too. We'll catch you next time on the next episode of the Flush Podcast.